highly respected colleague, Mr. Idowu, and my highly respected other colleagues, good morning to you all. I think yesterday I wasn't able to give you a brief background of my own self. Yakubu Mohammed is the name, and I graduated from the University of Maiduguri. I studied civil engineering, and I actually graduated in the year 2004, and I had my master's degree in project management in ABU Zaria in the year 2019. I don't know, some of you that used to listen to radio, there is a Radio Maria, a Roman Catholic radio called Radio Maria. So we do actually program. You may hear the priest mentioning Yakubu Muhammad. I'm actually the person. So you know that is actually aligning with what we call it communication. From the blue, somewhere the Reverend just has quoted me that I can be of relevance to convey information that is for both the Muslims and the Christians for peaceful coexistence in Nigeria. And we have been doing that successfully over the months. Yesterday, I commenced the program by talking briefly about sustainability because of what I saw on the board. Actually, it is very, very important because sustainability is one of the 17 goals that has been adopted by the United Nations in the year 2015. So if you check through the 17 goals, clean and reliable energy is being stated there. So, and in project management, sustainability is embedded in all the project management phases. That is why it is very, very much important for us to take into consideration the concept of sustainability. I made mention that so many people, when they talk about sustainability, they normally restrict themselves towards a project to stay for a very long period of time or serve people for a very long period of time. But sustainability is actually according to the PMBOK, that is project management body of knowledge that has been designed by the PMI, that is Project Management Institute of the United States. Actually, they categorize sustainability primarily into three, and they call them the TBF, that is the triple bottom line. TBF, triple bottom line. And that is, they break it into environmental sustainability, economic sustainability, and then social sustainability. So sustainability is about achieving the present needs and goals of the present people without hampering the future and even the present needs of the other people and the present people. So we try to set an example, for example, generation of electricity through coal. You know, if you use coal to generate electricity, it's accompanied with heavy emission of greenhouse gases. I know the greenhouse gases are actually depleting the ozone layer and then leading to heat to take place in the earth. It is leading to some near ultraviolet rays. Some ultraviolet rays will be penetrating into the earth and creating a lot of heat, and then causing the ices in the polar regions to be melting, and then increasing the volumes of water in the oceans and the rivers, and this is causing a lot of undesirable consequences like flooding, which leads to loss of life and property. So, but if you see from the longevity point, it can stay for long, but it can hamper the social and environmental aspect of life of other people. So when you think of sustainability, you start to do something to achieve your present need without hampering the needs of others, and then without also hampering the future needs of the other people. And project life cycle. We have to define project management because sustainability, project life cycle is the backbone of project management. So project management, as you can see, is composed of two words, project and management. So project is defined according to the PMBOK as a temporary endeavor that is undertaken in order to achieve a unique product, in order to achieve or create a unique product, services, or result. When we talk of product, you think of physical product. In the electrification field, for example, in the off-grid, mini-grid, for example, a product you can call the solar panels as a product, the inverter as a product, the battery, the charge controller, the wiring system, the powerhouse, the distribution network. All these are products that you can be able to see. And some products are not tangible, some are intangible. And the intangible are the ones that you cannot be able to see, like improved quality, for example. So, and the services refer to like consulting services. The result, for example, is what I mentioned: improved quality, improved efficiency, etc. So, this is the definition of a project. It is called temporary endeavor because it has a clearly beginning time and a clearly end time. So, whatever that you put, that you intend to do, and you clearly define the beginning time and also the end time, that is a project. I gave an example of this training program. You know, it is also kind of a consultancy services, so it's part of the services. So if it has a clearly beginning time, if it is to last for 1 month, from the beginning of so-so day to the end of so-so day, it is also a project. So if you want to do a marriage ceremony, for example, you set a time. You start from this time and end at this time. It's a project. So in everyday life, we used to do project. So it is embedded in all fields. That is why it is very, very important. So the project management, the management aspect of it. You know, I define project, and then the management aspect of it is defined as the application of knowledge. It is actually the process. Management is a process of coordinating and overseeing the activities of other people in order to achieve strategic organizational goals and strategies. So in the context of project management, the people that you are going to oversee and coordinate their activities are none other than the project team. So project management is defined as the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities in order to achieve the project, to meet up with the project requirement. So there are different kinds of skills, tools, and techniques that can be applied to a project in order to achieve to meet up with the project requirement. So the project life cycle refers to series of phases which a project passes through from the commencement to the end. So the commencement is the initiation stage and the end is the closure. So the series of phases which a project passes through from the beginning to the end is what is called project life cycle. So the number one among the life cycle is the initiation stage, followed by the planning stage, followed by the monitoring, followed by the execution stage. Then the fourth is the monitoring and control, and then the fifth is the closure, as indicated in the diagram. You have defined this. So the initiation stage is the first of the phases of the project management. It sets the stage for all the other phases to follow. It is where the idea of the project is first conceived and then evaluated, and then ultimately given the go-ahead as to whether to continue with the project or not. So it lays a strong foundation for the project planning, execution, and the other phases. You can think of the initiation stage of project life cycle as the genesis of the project. Before a detailed planning or actual work begins, the initiation stage will determine whether the project is worthwhile and whether it is feasible. We talk about feasibility studies. In any engineering project, there has to be a feasibility study. Not even any engineer, any type of project that you want to undertake, you have to carry out feasibility studies. Even if it is marriage, you want to marry somebody, you have to assess and carry out feasibility studies in respect to that person. Is it feasible for you to marry such kind of person? And if it is a project, you have to study it very well and study everything surrounding it to ensure that it is feasible. If, for example, it is deployment of some power facilities that has to be deployed in order for a project to be implemented, you have to carry out feasibility studies, for example, to determine, for example, if you find out there is a barrier, for example, a river or anything that, a bridge that have collapsed, for example, that can hamper transportation of those facilities, you know that that project is not going to be feasible. So you have to carry out feasibility studies. Some experts say that in the years back, NIPP, National Independence Power Project, some of the reasons why success was not recorded is because of failure to carry out effective and efficient feasibility studies. Because there was some equipment that were already purchased, but to transport them, the bridge doesn't have the capacity to transport them. So it is a very, very important thing in project management here, and it is done at the project initiation stage. So the key outputs in the project initiation stage are the project charter and then the stakeholder register. We define stakeholder as any individual, group, or organization that can affect the project or be affected by the project. So in the initiation stage, you have to identify all these stakeholders, from the financiers, the client, the contractor, the project team members, the beneficiary communities, and even anything that can pose a risk, even if it is a vandal that can vandalize, you have to also put them into consideration and provide necessary measures that can be able to cater for them. So you have to document them in a book called Stakeholder Register. And the project charter is actually a formal document that gives a formal authorization for commencement of the project. So the key goals and objectives of project initiation: defining the project purpose. For example, our purpose is to provide electrification from village A to village B. Village A will serve as the tee-off point where you hook up the network, and then village B will be the beneficiary community or the target community that you want to take the grid extension to. If it is an off-grid electrification, solar home systems, solar street lights, solar mini grids, it doesn't require a source like this. You just go straight to the village after carrying out your feasibility studies and community engagement and go straight and deploy those projects. So you have to define it at the initial stage. And the objectives: is it for productive use, for agricultural use, for solar boreholes, etc.? Are they going to use heavy energy consuming equipment like welding machine? For example, you have to put all these things into consideration at the initial stage of the energy audit. Then the feasibility studies we have already discussed about, then identify the key stakeholders, and then secure the authorization through the project charter, and then assign the project manager. Then you have to develop the business case, conduct feasibility studies. Some of these things are actually interrelated. So you have to, the importance of the project initiation, it ensures alignment with the strategic organizational goals. Whatever that you want to do, you have to align yourself with the organizational goals. Just like we speak about sustainability, that the United Nations of the world in the year 2025 have already stated in SDG 7 that people need to work towards providing clean and affordable energy. That means a kind of energy provision that does not hamper to the environment and the health of the people. But in the past, so many people are engaged in power generation and other forms of industrialization and creating a lot of problems to the society. So while we, the Nigerian people and other developing nations, are moving towards aligning ourselves with those goals, then the other developed nations should also be sincere enough to take care of us. That is part of emotional intelligence, so that we can also get industrialized, because industrialization actually depends on heavy power, like the 330 and the 132. So the 330, 132, 33 kV, 11 kV, for example. But the solar, most of the countries of the world that have developed, you cannot see industrialization tied to it because it has initial heavy cost at the initial stage. So aligning yourself with organizational goal, then managing stakeholder expectation and preventing the scope creep, that is preventing the project from crossing the boundary that has been established. For example, you want to electrify village A to B, and the scope is 10 kilometers. You try your best not to exceed that 10 kilometers because you have crossed the boundary. So you have to actually, if you cross that boundary, you have done what they call scope creep. If it is 50 poles you have to erect, and you end up doing 60 poles, you have now done scope creep, moving out of the boundary. Then the resources, which are financial resources, human resources, and then the material resources. In the procurement stage, when we are doing evaluation, you also have to check whether that contractor have the equipment capability. You have to check in his bid document if he have the evidence of ownership of equipment or hiring. So this is also part of what equipment resources. Then identify things that are risk, posing threat to the project, and then taking any necessary measure in order to reduce them or to stop them, and then provide a foundation for the project planning. So the project planning actually is the second stage in the project management life cycle, or simply project life cycle. It actually serves as a roadmap that guides the project from its initiation down to the closure. It involves defining the project goals, scope, tasks, resources, budget, timeline, and the potential risks. It sets a foundation for proper project execution and the other phases. The key output in the project planning stage is actually the project management plan, which is a document that contains all the activities that are to take place on the project. Everything that is to take place in the project will be documented in the project management plan. So, like we have stated about project charter, the goals and objectives, scope statement, which also define the boundaries of the work to be executed, the work breakdown structure, which involves breaking down the work packages into smaller work packages. We discussed about some elements of work packages in the grid extension project. If it is a solar mini-grid project, for example, you break down the PV itself and the PV mounting structures and their installation are work packages. The batteries themselves, work packages. And then the charge controllers, the wiring system, the distribution system, all these things are work packages. You break down the work into smaller packages and then assign time for all of these activities. By so doing, you make it simpler, and then you can even make the project to become more cost effective. I employed this when I was supervising a house belonging to one of my friends. And then he asked me, use that, because we employ that, and then another structure work that we are trying to do, he said, use that same work breakdown structure that you do, because it has actually worked. For example, if it is a house construction now, the excavation, you can put it as a work breakdown. It's a work package. The site clearance itself is a work package. The block work and the laying of the contract for the concrete for the foundation is a work package, etc. And then when erecting the blocks themselves also are work packages. Then if the whole building had been built, the clustering also. So you can check an individual now, what level of work can he do, and then what time will it take to put it. So you have to do all these things, then you will have an effective and efficient project execution. Then the project schedule, which refers to assigning time and the resources to all the project activities and deliverables. So, and for example, there is a software that is being used. It's called MS Project. That MS Project can develop Gantt charts that can assign time and the resources to all the project activities. If it is, for example, grid projects, the taking contractor to site maybe may take 1 day. So So you put it 1 day. So this is the activity, this is the dates. The activity are this way, and then the time are this way. So you will now put 1 day. And then the work follows, taking the contractor to the site and site clearance. How many days will it take? Is it 2 days? You put it. And then what follows it then are the route survey and pegging. You also assign it. How many days will it take? Put it. So that is how you develop the Gantt chart and then assign the timing. This is what is called project scheduling and timeline. Then the resource plan, where you assign the human resources, the material resources, and then the financial resources. Risk management plan you have to study. We have done a risk management analysis in the University of Calabar with Engineer Joro and some other key personnel in the project management unit. And we discover the project that is to be designed, the mini-grid for University of Calabar. If what we wasn't done, it is not feasible to do that project because we discover an erosion that is depositing water at the adjacent side of that project site and the proposed project site. And then when the water reaches certain level, it overflowed to the site. So we actually did this analysis, and then the project cost was adjusted, and now the project was successfully executed. So you have to carry out risk management at the project initiation, project planning. You have to capture it in the project plan. Quality management, you have to carry out necessary tests of the qualities and ensure the right quality and specification that is in line with the technical standard and specification are provided by the contractors. There are so many things that we have done in the zone when I was in the zone. At certain time, about 3 times, I have asked a contractor, 3 contractors to pull down contractor. Not many people can do that. But I was able to do that. You have right to do that as an engineer. You have the power to do that because if something goes wrong, it is you that can go to EFCC or ICPC because you certify it. So when you see that the right quality is not provided, you have the right to tell the contractor to do the right thing. Actually, the specification that time was about 150 mm, 150 mm AAC conductors. So those contractors went and put 100 mm, and I told them I cannot accept it. So they put down those conductors and then brought the one that is in line with the specification. Because when problem happened, and that problem led to, for example, loss of life, they will take you to court, they will take you to EFCC, and then you will face the music. So it is better for you to do the right thing. Even if it is someone that is your boss, and he wants you to deviate away from doing the right thing, from implementing or from ensuring implementation of project in line with the quality and specification, he wants it, he cannot give you in writing. He will only tell you verbally. So if he tell you verbally, you should be bold enough to tell him, sir, please reduce it into writing. Because verbal instructions should be followed with written. That is what is stated in all the contract standards. So stakeholder list and analysis and change management has to do with this change scope that we talk about, scope creep, etc., and avoiding it. So project management planning methodologies. We have waterfall, agile, lean, critical path method, and then Prince2. These are different kind of methodologies that are being used globally in order to achieve a proper project planning. There's also a hybrid method that combines various types of methodologies. The benefits of effective project planning, it will lead to clear vision where everyone understands the project goals and objectives. Clear and better decision making, informed choice based on solid plan. And you know the plan is made based on information. And you know any decision anywhere is made based on information. Without information, you cannot make any decision. So and those information are captured in the project plan. Then improve resource utilization, all the resources. Then reduce surprises. That is, it will actually lead to meeting the stakeholder expectation and then enhance team collaboration. A successful project manager should be able to work with the project team. If the project manager works with only isolated members of the team, that person is not a groomed project manager. A groomed project manager will actually organize a project team and then ensure that everybody is on board. That is how you can achieve success without overworking some other people. Because if you just choose some few people and you are working with them, then it will lead to stress on them and lead to redundancy. And that redundancy is what is part of what we call wastage, MUDA, as we discuss about lead principles of management. You have some people and you are not utilizing them, then it is MUDA, wastage. Government is paying them. And you decide from your own mind just to choose some few individuals to work with them, and then leaving the others is wastage. So you have a seasoned project manager should be able to organize a correct project team and then supervise and monitor them to ensure everybody is on track. The project execution phase, this is the third phase of the project life cycle, and it is the longest phase. While the planning answers the question of the why and the what of the project, then the project execution phase is actually about doing the work. So the project manager will ensure that what has been planned, what has already been put in the project management plan is actually put into practicality, and you will monitor it. That is why it is embedded with the monitoring and control. The project manager will monitor the implementation of these project activities that are captured in the project management plan to ensure that they are correctly done in line with what has been designed and in line with the project standard quality and the specifications. So it is not simply about blind following of the plan. The execution phase is closely intertwined with the monitoring and control phase to ensure continuous staying on track. If you design certain activity to take place for 3 days, for example, let's say pole erection now is to be done in 3 days, the project manager will monitor closely the execution of this project pole erection to ensure it is done maximum 3 days or less than 3 days. So that is proper work of project manager in ensuring the project stay on track. And these are some of the things that are involved in the project execution: time management, cost management, quality management, change management, risk management, including procurement management. If a project manager now, let me give you one of the examples of procurement management that happened somewhere in Nigeria, without mentioning them. So the person now, the project was given to a contractor. The contractor did not deliver this project based on what was stated, based on the time, etc. So it reached the end time. And that person now, the administrator, was a seasoned procurement professional. So he knew that technically that project had come to an end. Because project had a clearly defined beginning time and an end time. For no good reason, if the end time comes, and you discover that person cannot execute the project effectively, you have the right to terminate it. So that project was actually terminated. So the owner of the project, the contractor, happened to be one of the kebabs, decided to bring some police officers to the site to chase away those workers that were sent, because it was awarded to another person. So when that person had it, he now spoke with the army chief. The army chief provided some key army officers, and they went. So when they were going, just like him, when they were going, one big man in the country, a governor, called him. When he saw it, he mentioned his name. I'm so present. He said no. That man said that he doesn't want to establish a ground that that person had requested something from him and he did not honor it. So he said, no, this is not so person. You can't be so person. I know the voice of so person. You are 419 man. Don't call me again. He off the phone. When he off the phone, he moved straight to the side with his team. And when those police saw the soldiers, they all ran away. And the project was executed and then powered. This is what do we call it? Part of procurement management. So it can happen even during the phase of the project. Then acceptance management to ensure acceptance of the project. Just like what the example that I said, that I went and assessed a project and discovered that the stringing was not done in line with the technical standard and specification. I asked that those materials should be put down and the correct specification should be actually done. So as an engineer, you will see so many things. My own professor, when I was in university, Professor John Ohu, said to us that as an engineer, you can be comfortable, but you may not be rich. So what do you even need in life? You may not be too much rich. But what is actually richness? Richness is contentment. So what you have, if you are contented with it, is rich. But you can be super rich if you want, but you will compromise. So you see so many things, you will be tempted with so many things. But try your best to ensure the right thing is done. If you do the right thing, then the future will remember you. But if you do the wrong thing, then your name will be in the dustbin of history at a certain time. So the key goals of project execution, to create the project deliverables. The deliverables will be tangible and intangible, just like we mentioned. Each of the phases of the project, processes of the project activities can be considered as deliverables. The physical product, for example, the wall erection, the transformers, the conductors, the civil work, these are physical products. And then the services, the consulting services and the trainings, and then the results, improved quality, improved efficiency are all part of these things. And then managing of resources, the team performance, maintaining quality, handling change issues, etc. So these are also some of the things we have actually discussed about. The challenges of project execution, the scope with preventing the project to move out of the scope, and then resource constraint, insufficient and unavailable mismatched resource, people, equipment, and budget. In Nigeria, we have so many problems that are linked to this. You will see a project that is to carry, that can use like 50 million to execute now, they will just allocate 20 million. It has happened, actually. And the problem led to some problems. It wouldn't have actually led to that problem if proper stakeholder engagement was done at the initial stage, but it wasn't actually done. The total scope of the work, the total cost that can be used to complete that project is up to 50 million, but only 20 million was budgeted. And then the project was awarded at 18 million. So it started from a certain point and ended at a certain point without reaching the source. So the villagers now, this is the problem of stakeholder engagement. If we have engaged them at the initial stage and then communicated to them, this is what is happening, this problem wouldn't have happened. But no such thing was done. And then they now wrote straight to the RCDC that this project, they must have stole their money or stole their project and taken it somewhere. Because it started from the town and ended somewhere. So we were all summoned to go to the field together with the ICPC people. So me, I went there, I carried the documents, the award letter, the evaluation sheet, the payment certificates. When we went there, my coordinator asked me to talk. I now said, I want to ask questions, you villagers, how many transformers were installed? They said 2. Then I now asked, how many poles were erected? They called the number. So after mentioning this, I now said, okay, I don't have anything to talk again. The ICPC man became angry, and he started talking to me somehow. I now reacted to him too. The boss, they were 2. The other one was the boss said, do you know? He said, calm down. Do you know why he's talking to you like this? I said, I don't know. He said, in the ICPC Act, it's an offense for you to send electrification from A to B without taking it from A to B. And I said, can I ask a question? He said, go ahead. I said, okay, this is not initiated from us. This is from the National Assembly. If it is an offense, then who is the culprit? But from our own experience, we know this course cannot actually execute the project from the beginning to the end. But we decided to contribute within the scope of the money that was given. And then we now take it and ended it here. The next time, if more money is provided in the budget, we now start from that where we end and take it to the source. Which one then is better for you villagers? Is this one the election that we, because of fear that ICPC will say it's an offense, we now say, okay, it's not realistic. We now end this thing. Or now that we did it and then provided a ground for continuity, which one is better? They said, this one you did is better. So this is actually, this unrealistic deadline and also resources. It is actually the responsibility of the engineers to actually do all these things budgeting. You know, the initial budget surveys and costing that we do, initially that is the in-house pricing of materials. You know, we used to set up a price intelligence unit before procurement. They go to the market and then find out the prices of materials. The primary reason on this is for budget preparation. So you can be able to know that this project you want to take from A to B will cost so amount, and then submit it to the National Assembly, and they will now provide the budget. But sometimes it doesn't happen like this. That is why we are having a lot of issues. So the monitoring and control phases. This is called the project monitoring and control, PMC. It is actually the fourth phase in the project management life cycle, and it runs concurrently with the project execution, as we have said. You know, we said execution is ensuring the project management, project activities that were captured in the project plan are actually put in place in accordance with the quality and specification. So the project control, monitoring and control is also to ensure that these things were done correctly and then with the right quality. You can think of it as the manager's dashboard or steering wheel. If you are driving a car, you'll be checking the dashboard to ensure everything is good. If you see that the indicator for heat is going up, then you have to check, stop and check, and then do the right thing, then you can continue. But if you don't do that, then the vehicle can collapse. So that is how project is. If you don't carry out monitoring and control at the various stages, then that project can actually lead to collapse. For example, if you see that the contractor is trying to erect a pole not to the required depth, you know, all the pole manufacturers, they used to put an indicator. You see a line like that towards the end of the pole, showing you this is the level that must be buried to the ground. But if you go and inspect the project now, and you saw that that line is somehow above the ground, then you know that this contractor have not put it the right way. So you have to stop him and tell him dig it to the required depth so that the project will not collapse. So and failure to do that, when they now come and do stringing, you see the project can collapse. Or where they're supposed to provide a stay, either for HT or LT costs, and they did not provide it. And you know there is wind load that used to be generated. When wind blows, the conductors, they will pull the pole. So if there is no provision of a stay, you know, it can pull the pole, and when one pole fell, the others, so many others can also fail, and it can lead to collapse. So you have to steadily be carrying out monitoring and control to ensure the right thing is done at the right time with the right quality. So the final phase is the project closure, which is actually commissioning of the project and then waiting for the defect liability period to reach. And we spoke of the defect liability period. In REA, it is actually 6 months because the project, when the contractor executes the work 100%, the project engineer or project manager will monitor and evaluate the project and then pay him only 90%. If he has done it correctly with the right quality, he will pay him only 90% and hold 10%. That is called retention. And that retention will be held for a period of up to 6 months. And when that 6 months comes, then the contractor will put a request, and then the engineer now will go again and inspect that project. When he inspects it, then he will now find out whether there are some defects or not. If there are defects that are being observed, he will now tell him to correct those defects. And if there is no any defect, then he will now write his own report and make a recommendation for processing of the payment. I don't know, do you also want me to speak more about communication? You know, I told you that in my MSc project management, I specialize in contractual communication in engineering projects in Nigeria. So actually, the result of my study revealed that 70% of Nigerian construction professionals cannot communicate effectively. So what is effective communication? Effective communication is for you to transmit the right information to the right recipient in the right format, using the right channel, with the right feedback. So when you're able to do that, then your communication will be effective. And then in the process of doing that, if you are able to communicate only the information that is required, that your communication is not only effective but efficient. So, and actually what we did, how many of you here know what is called feeding? Can anyone tell me what is feeding? So even me, I didn't know before the beginning of my own research. So my what do they call them? Those people that guide people in the project.
Supervisors.
Dr. Babakolo, kudos to him. He was the one who actually guided me on feeding. I am in the construction industry. I didn't know about just like what I'm here. I see the response here. FIDIC is a French terminology, acronym. International Federation of Consulting Engineers. Federation Internationale des Ingenieurs Council. That is International Federation of Consulting Engineers. It captures everything that has to do with the project. So, and they provide guidance. So in it, the man asked me to bring up all the communication types that I can be able to bring. So I bring so many of them. And then he now choose only 4 of them for me. So he now asked me to go and search all the things that used to happen, the occurrences that happen on site, which require communication. And then, for example now, if the contractor is executing a work, and then he now discovers some archaeological findings. So this one will require him to communicate to the management or to the client through the engineer, because the engineer is serving in position of the client as his representative. So this is to be communicated through notice. Actually, those 4 things, no any office work can take place without them. Notice, request, instruction, and advice. So we carry out this 4. So now, under this, for example, this discovery of archaeological findings, we put all these 4 communication types and then ask the professional in the construction industry to choose one of these communication types that will fit this discovery of archaeological findings. How is it to be communicated? So you will see. And then when he did that, he tested me. And he gave me 4 questions. And then when I answered him, he said, stop there. You only score 50%. But you have even tried. Go and test your professionals, the construction professionals, especially your engineers. So when I did, when I came and targeted, because my target was the top people, directors and all those big men. I came to my agency, they refused to answer, because sometimes you will know when from answering that question that this thing is testing your intelligence. But I now utilize, I take the opportunity. I have someone in the power industry who is heading an organization. So I took advantage of that. I came through him and then he directed all his key people to respond to this. And we went to some other places that I have access. So, and then there is a particular individual, that person, they used to post about him that he, in the entire Nigeria, there is no any person that knows project management better than him. So, when I was giving him my questionnaire, I put one small dot on his one. So when I now submitted it, and he responded it, I checked his one, deliberated, and he also failed. So there is no any question of post here. It's something that one have to study and think critically. So this is how this thing is. Like I gave you the example, they put all these communication types in front of an occurrence that requires a specific communication type to describe it, and then so many, 70% of them chooses the wrong answer. So the research actually shows that 70% of Nigerian communicators and construction and professionals cannot effectively communicate. So therefore, we should improve on our communication, and because it determines success of a project. Without proper communication, there can be no success. Everything in life is about communication. That has to do with visual, with audio, with touching, with feeling, and things like this. So if you cannot do proper communication, even husband and wife, if she cannot be able to communicate to you in the proper way, you can have a conflict in the society. Not only that, even in the workspace. If you cannot effectively communicate with their boss, you can be able to you cannot be able to choose the correct information and pass it in the proper way, then there can be also problems that can happen, which can lead to failure in the construction industries. This is few of what I can say to you, and thank you for listening. Then if there's a question.
Good morning, sir. So my question is that I have two questions. Based on the WBS, work breakdown structure. So like I don't know in REA, who is responsible? Was it the civil engineer or is M&E that designed the work breakdown structure? Because I know there is different things that we have to touch. Then secondly, after closing stage, that is the finalization of the project. So that time where we leave for the contractor, maybe for the project, that 6 months. I don't know what is the standard name of or technical name of that time frame, that 6 months.
The second question is called defect liability period. That period of waiting from the energizing or powering of the project, which meant the people to be using that project. You wait for that period of 6 months to ensure that everything is correctly working and the people is serving the people the way it is expected. That is called defect liability period. You talk about the work breakdown structure. Is it the work of the monitoring and evaluation M&E people or the civil engineer? Actually, the issue of civil engineer or mechanical engineer, we don't bring it into question too seriously. Because if you check in the university, we work together. We study together from part 1, part 2, up to part 3, before everybody now takes his direction. There is a wisdom behind that, which shows that the primary work of the civil engineer, the electrical can do it. For example, now to go and inspect a pole, you don't have to bring the civil engineer to do it, and then after that, electrical engineer come and do it. He can do it. So we have had similar kind of problem in the industry. This man knows about it. You know, we have been in this agency for the past 18 years. We work together even in this. They have also done stakeholder meeting to solve the problem between me and somebody at the top. So I have learned this job very well because I don't have laziness. And then at certain time, even one of the officers, he said that when he gave me some work and I did the full schedule and then did my AutoCAD drawing, which even my other colleagues cannot do, and then did the baby effectively and produced my result. When I submitted to him, he said, you can even do it better than so and so person. But despite that, sometimes they say, you deceive them. So this is the kind of problem that we are having. We don't bring this into question because the basic work of civil engineering, for example, now the civil work and fencing, and then the transformer plates, all are civil. The whole erection is civil. The roof survey and peg is supposed to be civil. And things like this. You understand? The providing of the special work foundations, purely civil. But electrical can do, and they do. So we do the electrical, the civil and mechanical engineers, we handle every other thing. And then specifically this thing, you know, all engineers, whether you have qualification in project management or not, as so far you are handling project, you are a project manager. Even though you are not even an engineer, if you are handling any project, you are a project manager. So it is the duty of the project manager to actually define that, do that work breakdown structure in the project planning stage. And then the monitoring and control is to be done by the project manager and also the M&E. So it is a multidimensional task so that you can achieve the desired goals effectively. If, for example, even you monitor yourself. If, for example, you wake up in the morning and you dress, you check the mirror to ensure everything is correct. That is monitoring. You may ask your wife to also check it. That is monitoring. Sometimes when you come to the office, another person will notice something. This is monitoring. And sometimes in the project work, apart from ourselves, and then the M&E, we also have some consultants that will do consultancy services. They will also do that monitoring of that work. That is also to ensure more efficiency. So if they engage a consultant to carry out consultancy service on a particular work, and the internal engineers did not carry similar function, that is, there is a lapse in this kind of thing. So our own work can serve as monitoring also on the consultants to ensure they have done the work. If not, what makes you to think that they have actually done the work? They may sit down in the office and then create a report. So they collect money from contractor, collect money from the client, and then develop a report and push it. It is possible. So what can make the organization to ensure that they have done the job is that multidimensional monitoring. The engineer will also go to the same work and then monitor it and produce the same report. In the initial stage, our pioneer MD have critically observed something important in regard to this, and then he now even collapsed the consultants. That's very correct. So he discovered that the consultant will go and monitor the work and produce report, and then make recommendation for paying 100%. And our engineer go to the site, and then he will make his evaluation, and his report will indicate 30%, 40%, or something that is less. So when it becomes rampant across the zones, the MD now says that means these people are not actually doing the work. They will sit down in the office and cook up a report. So this monitoring and evaluation thing, and it should be a multidimensional thing, so as to achieve a greater efficiency and effectiveness and output.
Okay, thank you, sir. Please.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. How can one avoid scope creep in a project?
You can avoid, let me give you a simple example of a way that somebody can ensure can enter into scope creep in our project implementation. For grid extension project, for example. If the distance from the TO point to the intended community is 10 kilometers, for example, when you give it the ITC, should be divided by 70 meters. So it will give you the total number of poles. So that means it is given to you in your works order that you are to execute, implement, let's say 100 poles, for example, now. And then the spacing is 70 meters, clearly specified. So if now the contractor decides that he wants to reduce the gap and make it 50-50 meters or 60-60 meters, definitely you know it cannot reach that distance. So it can lead to requests for actually additional quantity of force, and that one now can blow the contract out of the boundary that is being stated. So there are several other instances that can lead to scope these efforts.
Okay, thank you, sir. So my question is what's the best way to ensure standard is followed in project implementation? Like for example, you gave for those people you asked to remove the thing that has already been fixed. Is it some of the standards, like the cable size and the rest, is it just by observance, or you have to like physical access to it?
Actually, in engineering, you know, we have things like a vernier caliper and things like this, which you can be able to use it to test it, to see the thickness of the conductor. But you know, with the experience sometimes, you know, if you check something based on experience, you can be able to know that this thing is actually 150 or not. But before you acquire that experience, you can be able to use that tools. So that is why before the contractor deploy those materials to the site, there should be a kind of inspection between himself and the engineers to ensure that these things are in line with the quality standards that have been established. So if that is done, it will avoid that problem. But some of them, they may decide to just go straight and start deploying those materials without going to meet the engineers and then carry out this test. So and now, this our ED even brought out a new technique whereby the vendors now will bring their materials, and then our engineers will carry out tests to ensure this quality management is done effectively. And then there will be also warranty that will be ensured that if you say this project is going to stay, this solar, for example, will last for 3 years. If it lasts for just less than that, then you are going to replace it. So all these things are part of measures. So if these things are put into place, it will avoid all these issues.
So thank you for the lecture. My question is within REA, is there a system that deletes contractors who consistently fail to deliver in terms of time and quality of projects delivered?
Thank you for that important question. Yes, REA actually, especially with this our new management, they actually used to ask for reports on contractors that fail to carry out the project. Because when we say contract, it is a kind of binding agreement between two parties, the contractual parties. Who are the contractual parties? The contractor and the client. So in the procurement evaluation stages, each of the contractor used to write that they are going to deliver this project within so months, or so weeks, or so days. Some will write 120 days, some will write 90 days, etc. So it is binding on you once you have, there is agreement, contract agreement, and you have signed. And then you have signed the acceptance form. So it is binding on the contractor to carry out that. But if he deliberately do that, like I stated yesterday, according to JCT, Joint Contract Tribunal, there is a clause that talks about liquidated and ascertained damages. If that is enforced, but that one should be captured in the contract clauses. If it is not captured there, at the end of the day, the contractor may take the organization to court and it become an issue. But if they capture it in the contract clauses, then it is going to align them so that they will avoid doing that thing. They need also to capture it that if you don't if you do it, not if you violate doing it in accordance with the time that is being given, for example, this is what is going to be charged. And they will deduct that money. You will see it will serve as a solution. And some of our, like our EDs, they used to say that any contractor that failed to mobilize the site, they should bring their name and they are going to release them. My ED used to do that, and also the ED rep and the other ED, for example.
Thank you very much, sir. What did the contractor actually do? Probably there was a miscalculation or maybe inflation in price. So for instance now, and he has an ongoing project, but the money actually budgeted for the government that is going to use, already is not spending them. So what should the person actually do?
Actually, in contract management, there are things that can happen not within the control of the contractor. And in project management, that's what they call ex gratia. Ex gratia. If something happens not within the control of a contractor, then that will be considered a compensation. So if something happens not within the control of that contractor, there is room for variation. So you should just adequately communicate that information to the client through the right channel, and then the proper thing should be done to ensure.
For example, it will cost them 15 million, but the client wants it to be done at the rate of 30 million. So there is a way they will write it in the clause, so medium cost, that they will, how would that it? They will execute the contract. They know the money will not be enough, but they will write it in the clause in such a way that when they've run out of money, the client cannot implicate them because it's already
The client cannot
implicate them because it's already stated in the clause. It's the way they do it. So they will not
I understand what you're saying.
they know the money will not be enough, but they will collect the contract, they might and inside the contract. So at the end of the day, if they are not able to execute the contract, they will say this is what was stated in the clause. So clients are not implemented.
So what he's asking is that if a contract is being given, and clearly based on the scope that is in the contract, the scope of the work, the money that is being provided cannot execute that work. So, and the client put it in such a way that he cannot be implicated. So what will happen on the side of the contractor? So the contractor should be a critical thinker. He's a critical stakeholder. It is not by force. That is why it is a contract. That is why there is provision for signing agreement and acceptance. You should critically think. If it is electrification, for example, from A to B, you are expected as a contractor. Don't be lazy. Go to that side. The in-house people have done their own trial survey and produce their cost and quantities. You are expected to also go to that place and carry out your own. And if you discover it's not realistic, then you should not sign that acceptance. Call their attention. And if they discover it is true, maybe they can after it is suit to what is right. But if you are not able to do that, and then the contract was accepted and signed, then it becomes binding on your own side. So before the acceptance of that project, the contractor is supposed to think critically and ensure that he can make profit. Because the essence of doing that is to make profit while taking into consideration the social and environmental impact on others.
My question is, what is the contract by release and your supervisor posting assigned against your will? What is the proper channel to handle? No any supervisor should force you against your will. There is this saying that a cow can be forced to the river, but the cow cannot be forced to drink water. So if at the end of the day your supervisor may decide, you have seen so many things like this. I have seen so many things, but I want to talk to you about things like this. I will write volumes, but nothing happened and I still remain. So I also have my boss, I think you know him in a matter. So we are like that, we have been doing our work like this. Your supervisor may ask you to do something which is not correct. So it is there for you to accept or not to accept. If you don't accept, fine. But if you do it, it's not force. It is not carry your hand by force and right. So it is finally you. So as an engineer, try your best to ensure the right thing is done. Because anything that happens in life, your conscience will tell you. That is how God designed us. If that thing is good, or it doesn't have any problem, your conscience will tell you, your conscience will be clear about it. But if that thing can have negative effect in the future, your conscience will also tell you. So when you have doubt about that matter, don't even do it. So that is how you are.
Very much. We'll ask one or two questions before we continue.
Good morning, sir. Sir, I want to ask a question. I want to use my community as an example. There's a mini grade going on in my community, and I happen to go back home for official leave, and I discovered that the materials the contractors are using are not the standard. And maybe that is not my zone. I'm not on official supervision. What am I supposed to do, sir? Should I maybe ask question or how should I address the issues?
He said that in his own community there is a mini grid that is being deployed. So something took him to his village and he discovered that those materials that were provided are not in line with the quality and specifications. So what is he supposed to do? Is he to complain? Yes, you have right to complain. And you also have right to make the community representative to put it in writing as a complaint. But if you want to make things easier, you don't put it in writing, you can go and discuss with them. When you go and discuss with them that this is what you observe. So you want, it is your own right. We are members of Service of Canada. Our own job is to ensure the right thing is being done. It is part of Service of everybody should ensure the right thing is being done. So you go and discuss with them that this is what you observe and these are the evidences. If they correct it, fine. If they don't correct it, if you wish, you can be the one to write. And if you wish, you can ask another person to write. And when the message reaches the people of authority, they will ensure that the right thing is being done.
Thank you very much, sir. One last question. My question was just to second what he was asking us about when a contractor is giving a contract. No, it's giving a contract, for instance, 50 million and collect for 30. Why would such a contractor why would he even collect the contract in the first place? Procurement department, before the contract is awarded, I believe procurement department should have an idea of a certain amount of money for a particular project. But then someone comes with something that far less, and then they still give him the contract. The one I asked him, he now said it.
Clearly understand the question now. You know, the 2007 Public Procurement Act stipulates that you award the contract to the lowest responsive bidder. This is the problem. It's a problem. Even my lecturers, project managers, have told me 5 years back that this is a problem in the Public Procurement Act that have not been addressed. And it's like an open loop for problems. If, for example, now he is the lowest and you now disqualify him, he may decide to take him to court. Because if you have evaluated his profile and then he has satisfied the technical requirements, that means he is technically responsible. That means he is responsible. So he is qualified for financial evaluation. So in the financial evaluation, if 3 contractors now bid it, because all of them are responsible, that is why they are qualified for financial evaluation. So the lowest among them, lowest responsible among them. But the only thing is that the 2007 Public Procurement Act states that if the gap between the price intelligence and what is quoted by the lowest bidder is having wide budget gap, then that lowest bidder can be disqualified. But that even wideness is not also defined. That is why so many people are here. So, but the person that is also bidding should also think critically. You are also a member of the country or member of the world. You are also part of the environment. If you know that this thing that is being offered, the price that you are giving is not realistic, you cannot do it except you actually violate the quality, then you should not do it. But if by chance now he decided to do it, let's say you know that this thing can cost like 50 million, and then now this person bidded it as 49, I bidded it, let's say 47, and then the other person, you now bidded it, let's say 20 million. You know that you cannot do it with this quality that is being given to you. So it is not the responsibility of the project manager or engineer to ensure that you do it with the right quality. Because the reason why procurement people are fearing to disqualify people, because fearing of court cases. But because we don't know, some contractors may decide to offer a lower price just because they want market penetration. So if that is what he wants, due diligence will now find out. And then he may decide to accept it because he has some materials that are in the store that have been purchased a long time ago when prices were cheaper. So due diligence in procurement will also reveal that. That is why they need to be very careful not to award to somebody that is the lowest responsible bidder. But at the same time, if they award it, then it is the responsibility of the engineer or the project manager to ensure that it is executed within the right value and the standard and the specification. Otherwise, the problem now will not be on the contractor, but on the engineer. He may have evil intention and also bring us some bribe and bribe the engineer. So the engineer now is at fault because he collected that bribe and went and certified that work which is not in line with quality. But under normal circumstances, contractors do carry out contract because of profit. So how can somebody go and collect it with a price that he knows that if he buys the materials with the right quality, he cannot make profit but loss? So definitely, most of the intention of those people that bought with very low price is evil intention. But the engineer or the project manager is the one that can be able to do the right thing. Because if he writes in his report that everything is correct, that means he have misadvised the administrators. And then if they discover that, it will lead him to problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So let us put our hands together to appreciate